All right, welcome back in. Once again, I am not the Prez, and I am not in a cabin in a far-off land. Nope. Instead, we got to get down to business here on a pretty good day across and what's going to be a great weekend in sports, and we've got you covered here on WagerTalk Today. Great lineup for you as well. Tampa Bay is where this week's UFC matches are going to be at the Amelia Arena there, where the Tampa Bay Lightning play. And there are some great fights on this card. Kyle Anthony will be by dropping some knowledge there and a couple of best bets for you. Andy Lang will also be by. He's going to talk about one of the fights coming up on that card with a interesting backstory to one of his plays. He'll also have an NFL prop as well as an NBA prop and an NHL prop. NHL's got the most games here tonight, guys. 7 line games in college basketball, just 3 NBA games. So we've got a little something for everybody here today. Don't forget, hit that like button. If you're joining us live today in the chat, shout out to Have Cash, Titan CT, Bill Sandoval, Natural 8 in the house here. Andrew, appreciate you guys. You see Panda still bitching and moaning about the Knicks last night. We'll get to that later. But let's dive in right off the bat to some college basketball because we have Adam Trigger in the house, and nobody has been crushing it in college hoops like Trig, coming off an undefeated day yesterday. Trig, for the clients. And I know I saw you on the morning wager with Mark Zinno, and you're giving out Colgate taking 30-plus points. They didn't need that last night either. However, this Iowa State rivalry, I think one of the more underrated ones in college basketball, and a lot of that has to do with, I believe, like the last 5 or 6 of these matchups have been absolute blowouts by one side or the other. Nothing less than 14 points. I'm seeing 6.5, 6.5, somewhere in that ballpark here for Iowa State. What do you think we're going to get here on the road?
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's a great rivalry, the Cy-Hawk rivalry. I know it's like Drew Martin Bett's favorite thing to say. It's his favorite rivalry. Anytime it comes up, he gets fired up. But it'll be an awesome atmosphere. Carver Hawkeye is going to be bumping tonight. I think the number is a little like if you forced a side opinion out of me, I'm going to talk about the total, but like 6.5 did seem, I guess, a little bit high. I made the number 5, so there was some value. I think it's been bet down a little bit, but really tough to kind of like land on the side in this one against the number. You referenced the fact that some of these have turned into blowouts. I don't think that really, it's probably like, I don't think there's anything to that really. I don't think it means this one's going to be a blowout. What I do think is going to happen here though, Joe, I think we're going to see a lot of points. And I think that's the odds makers are telling you we're going to see a lot of points with a total of 159.5. But I think we might see more like 170, 175. I think we might see one of these teams hit 90, maybe both of them hit 80. And I'll talk about why. So Iowa gives up a ton of easy looks, like very, very easy shots. They're not great defensively, but not only are they not great defensively, they are giving up just very easy looks. The only team that couldn't score on this Iowa team, Joe, was Ryder, and it's because they went 1 for 16 from 3. A lot of those were open; they just missed them. You're talking about teams like Southern, South Dakota, USC Upstate, all scoring in the mid-70s on Iowa. If you want to look at the competitive games, the teams that are more in their weight class, Michigan 85, Northwestern 79. So this team gives up points. And this Iowa State team, more so than previous years, Joe, can score them. This is an Iowa State team that's playing faster than it has in years past. I have them offensively in my top 20 nationally in terms of where I rate offensive teams. And I think it's very interesting that their tempo is faster this year, but they're also probably more likely to be willing to play fast with Iowa because they know they're going to get so many easy looks. Iowa, Evan Maya has their true tempo rank this year, 9th. They're going to want to push the tempo. They've been doing it for years under Fran McCaffrey. And I think Iowa State's going to be fine playing like that. So for that reason, Joe, I think we're getting a lot of points here. I like the over at 160 or 159.5.
It's just so it's so crazy, Trig, when you think about it, because Iowa State consistently top 10 defensively efficient team in college basketball. They play suffocating defense, but it's interesting that the market has this at 159. They're basically telling you, Trig, that Iowa State's not going to have a problem running up and down in transition with Iowa in this one. They're not going to try to control the tempo, you don't think?
I don't, and the reason for that, Joe, is the caliber of offensive player on Iowa State this year is much better than it's been in years past. So, yeah, I have Iowa State a top 10 defensive team nationally. There's no question about that. They can still defend, and they're still very good at doing that. But I think the pace is going to get you over here because, listen, Iowa's still a very good offensive team. Iowa's going to bang in some threes. There's no real defense for that, right? I mean, they're a great shooting team. They're going to get them off, especially if this goes the way I think it kind of could go, where Iowa State is out in front. It's kind of what the odds makers are telling you by making them a 6-point favorite. I feel like Iowa State could be chasing in this game, Joe, and that's going to be a lot of just deep bombs getting fired up. But yeah, I think it comes down to the fact that Iowa gives up so many easy looks that it makes sense for Iowa State to want to up the possessions in this game. I think they'd be doing themselves a disservice against a team like Iowa, limiting the number of possessions, because more possessions is going to mean more easy looks for them, and It's likely how they pull away in this game. So I like the over here.
All right, looking at the over in the Cy-Hawk renewal there, Iowa State taking on Iowa in Iowa. Should be a good one there. Adam Trigger, you've got a best bet here. Again, only a 7-game slate across the board in college basketball. It is what they call exam week. So campuses letting out, kids going home, taking those final exams, a little holiday break here at schools. But doesn't mean that we don't have some edges in some of these games. And you picked an interesting one here as a best bet, Trig, with Vatech kind of going through it. But, boy, they're laying a lot of points here against North Carolina A&T. It was as high as, 15 and a half? What is it now, to 14 now? 14 and a half? Do we trust Virginia Tech here to win by that kind of spread?
No, Joe, we don't. And if you guys watched our previews on the WagerTalk YouTube channel, you would know that we don't trust Virginia Tech. I said that they'd be one of the maybe 3 worst teams in the ACC this year in a preview that we did before the season, and it looks like that's going to be true. Listen, the key, it's the key to this, but I bet it either way. So I took NC-A&T plus 15 and a half. I took it early this morning. I am comfortable with that, even if for some reason Landon Glasper does not play. But I think I'm like 95% sure that he's in tonight. And the reason for that, so I was actually down at the game on Saturday at A&T. It's where I got this great top, maybe the greatest logo of all time because it's my initials. I feel like I should have that on cufflinks or something. But, you know, I think Glasper, he came out and just walked right by me, street clothes. I was like, oh, no, he's out. And I looked. No boot on the ankle. He had rolled his ankle against Buffalo. I find out later that he got suspended for whatever reason. Those are usually one game. When you have a kid that gets kind of like late scratch suspended, they probably broke a team rule. It's usually a one-game type thing. So I think his ankle is fine. He had played on it a couple games after the Buffalo game, and I expect him to be in the lineup here. That is so important because he's so important to their offense. If Glasper's in, which I expect him to be, I make this more like 11 and a half. So even if he's out, the 15 and a half, that's roughly where I would make it with him out. It's very similar to Bryant last night where I knew Earl Timberlake might not play. I bet it anyway, and we still had a good enough number to get it home. But again, Glasper being in, I think is the difference between NC-A&T hanging around and NC-A&T having a chance to win this game outright, because he's that good of an individual scorer. And Joe, they lost to Jacksonville, who's very possibly a worse team than NC-A&T. The other thing I like about A&T this year, last year it was all Glasper. He had to do everything. This year they bring in guys like Ryan Forrest, Jonathan Lamont, who was on Maryland for a little while, didn't get much playing time. Those guys can score. Forrest has been their leading scorer for most of the season. So there are other threats. They're still poor defensively, but there are other threats on this A&T offense, 3 or 4 really good guards that have really improved this team this year. And again, it comes down to Virginia Tech laying 15. This team can't score. They've lost they've lost 6 straight games. They haven't scored more than 64 points, Joe, in their last 7 games. They can't put the ball in the basket. And even you look at the 2 games that they actually did score points, Delaware State and USC Upstate, I've got NCA&T rated far above those 2 teams this year. And again, Glasper just adds the extra element to that offense that they need. This is way too many points either way. I'm willing to say this game is single digits. I wouldn't be surprised if A&T has a chance in this one. I think it's a single-digit game, and I'm taking those points all day. 4% play for me. I took the 15.5, and I would play this at just about any number. I think we've got a great game in Blacksburg tonight.
All right, taking the points here with North Carolina. A&T is the way to go. Trig has been crushing it in college hoops, guys. No reason for you not to visit his page over at WagerTalk.com. In fact, Trig, we got a great deal right now with a 7-day all-access pass. You can get a couple extra days right now, 10 days total for $99. What would folks get over at your page at WagerTalk now?
Yeah, listen, guys, great time to use the 10-day on me. Finals week is where Trig typically cooks. The reason is all these teams, like you're going to have shows where people just suddenly became an NCA&T expert because there's only 7 games today. I've been watching this team all year. I was just down at their gym on Saturday. These types of matchups where the team like the Bryant, the Colgate step up, and now they're playing like a team from a power conference. I've typically thrived in these over the years. And then last night I had Bryant and Norfolk State, both winners, and I should have had Colgate too. Mark Zinno and I on the morning wager had made a great case for Colgate, and I stupidly didn't add it to my card. But these are the types of games that I've done extremely well in over the year, and there's a whole bunch of them over the next 10 days. You also have a 5% play for me on Sunday in the NFL. I'm 6-1 in my last 7 5% max bets, and I think I've hit 3 football ones in a row. So that would cover that as well. It's 10 days for the cost of 7. It's a great deal, and you should go take advantage of that.
Absolutely, Treg. All right, telling you on these, again, only seven games on a college basketball card. We appreciate it, Trig, as always. And like he said there, giving out winners there on the morning wager, which I'd highly encourage you guys to check out. Links will be in the description there with Mark Zinno and Brian Power as, they gave out 3-0 on that show yesterday, which is another reason for you guys to make sure you hit that like button or hit the subscribe button. Even better, become part of that Wager Talk TV family, as you will be hard-pressed to find better free content here across all sports than on Wager Talk TV, including, well, the UFC, who's got its final event of the year. And when it comes to cashing tickets in the UFC, nobody better than our man Kyle Anthony in the house, ready. Tampa is ready here for the final card, Kyle. They're coming south here. I believe the next event, UFC, will be January 11th, but some interesting fights and some fighters on this card here this weekend. And anytime you get Colby Covington, who wasn't supposed to be fighting Buckley, am I correct? This was kind of like Ian Gary got called up to, and now they're basically scrambling. But Covington's from Florida. Should be an easy one, right?
Well, this one here, definitely an interesting one here. You've got Joaquin Buckley, who is around the minus 275 mark. You got Covington, not used to seeing him at this price tag of plus 225. And normally you know what you're getting with Colby Covington, the wrestling, the pressure, the pace, smothering opponents' offense. And that has worked for him here. But this is definitely a situation where there are multiple red flags on the Covington side. And the first is going to be, to your point, Joe, is the fact this is short notice for him. He's a guy that has openly said he does not want to take short notice fights. He is now change of opponents. Yes, it was Ian Gary, all these things moving around, but that's one part of it. The other part of it being the fact that he's 36 years old. He's going to be 37 in February. He's on the wrong side of 35. And this is really when we know that skills start to diminish, things start to decline, and that could be a part of this, of really the downward spiral now I think that Colby Covington is going to be involved in. And then also you got to look at the fact he's just been inactive. Since 2020, he has had 4 fights, and for a guy of his caliber, that is extremely, extremely low overall. Then you've got to add in the fact that he's 2-3 out of his last 5. And even you've got to add in the fact that, his last fight against Leon Edwards. Now, Leon Edwards is a great fighter. All those things, being considered here, Colby looked slow. He looked unmotivated. He wasn't wrestling. There was just a lot of issues going on for him in that spot. And in this spot on Saturday, he's going to have to wrestle. And I just don't believe he's going to be able to do that. I think that, the 69% takedown defense rate for Buckley is going to hold up there. And the other part about it is the fact that, Colby is a small guy for the division. He's not very big. And you've got Buckley who's coming down in weight. And since he's come down in weight, he has looked like an absolute savage. He's going to have the physicality advantage. He's going to have that strength advantage. And I think he just keeps distance, gets back up. Colby does have the wrestling, not good on top control. And I think Buckley can keep getting up. And that really goes to where I'm going here is I just think this plays out on the feet. Colby has pillow fists for hands. This is a guy in Buck who's explosive, powerful, and I think he's going to find that knockout somewhere in these 5 rounds. So in this spot here, getting off the -275 number, you've got him by knockout about +160, and I think that's a very likely outcome in the main event.
Yeah, how does Covington keep finding himself in these spots? I mean, the last couple of fights have been championship fights. He's gotten absolutely smoked. If he does somehow win this one, isn't the next shot another one of these title fights in the welterweight division?
It looks like that. He's already lobbying and for that in the press conference. He's already saying, wow, I win this, I get the title shot. And again, he's 2-3 out of his last 4. He has not looked that great. So he's always going to be the mouthpiece. He's going to hype fights. He's going to get, some media attention. But when you're looking at it, like I said, February, he's going to be 37. This is just a downward spiral for him. And again, I think this is a very tough matchup. I think he would have preferred the Ian Gary fight, working those takedowns. But either way, I think it's a tough spot for him on Saturday.
If nothing else, he's a showman. It should be entertaining at Amelia Arena there in Tampa Bay for this final UFC card. Another fight is a guy that I know well from Buffalo, New York, and Billy Q, man. Billy Quarantillo taking on Cub Swanson. Now, Billy you'd be out of your mind to want to go and just exchange shots with him because he's an absolute monster. The problem is when he gets to the ground. And that was always the weakest part, and that's kind of been what has slowed his ascension, if you will, in UFC. But, man, is this a quick fight? Does Cub Swanson want to exchange with him? What are we going to get in this one?
Well, in this spot here, you've got Billy Q. He's sitting around a -162. On the comeback on Cub, you got about a +135. And to your point, this is a spot where you've got Billy. He's a guy that likes to be the aggressor, will push forward, looking to really push out that big-time volume, wants those exchanges on the feet. He'll crash the pocket if he needs to. And the one thing with Billy is he is really high volume, and he's a guy that will push that pace, and not how he is to try to melt his opponents with volume. He averages 7.36 significant strikes landed per minute, while Cub is on the downside a little bit there, landing about 4.67. So that is an advantage for him, I guess you could say, in this spot. But overall, with that being said, I think Cub has just the better, well-rounded skill set overall, even at this point in his career. And the other part about it is, yes, Billy can look for those takedowns, but even again, you've got Cub's 63% takedown defense rate. You've got the accuracy on takedowns for Billy at 23%. So this is where a fight I do believe will play out on the feet. And when it's playing out on the feet, I just really like the striking of Cub Swanson. I mean, I think that he still has, good footwork, good hand speed, better combinations. Billy does, again, have that volume. He can push forward, but I think his striking is a little bit sloppier. I don't think it's as crisp compared to the technical striking that you've got from Cub Swanson. And then the other part about it is the fact that, Billy is not very defensively sound. He's a guy that gets touched up by a lot of guys, most guys, and you've got the volume side of it for him, but he comes forward and there's points where he just gets landed on. He absorbs nearly 6 significant strikes per minute, while Cub absorbs less than 4. And I think that's going to be the difference maker here, where there's going to be a lot lot of exchanges. I think Cub can work on the outside. And yes, again, Cub is the older guy in this spot, but the last 2 fights, I thought he fought very well. He beat Hakeem Adawadu. He actually had a split decision against Andre Feely. And even in that fight, I thought Feely lost. I thought that Cub won. So in this spot, I think this is going to be a very close fight, a fun co-main event, but I got to go dog or pass here, and I got to go Cub Swanson at that plus number.
Both guys, pretty good chins. No, Kyle? I mean, who do you think's got? I mean, it could be maybe the fight of the night here, too, if they end up staying on their feet, but who knows if it'll ever make it to the end.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I actually kind of think it's going to be a slugfest, and both will last. So I actually do lean more towards the over, more towards just getting to the decision. And I don't need to get to, with Cub, I'm not looking to get too creative here. Already got a nice plus number here. So I do like it, but I think it's going to be a slugfest. They're going to go toe to toe. And I think it's going to be a great co-main event heading into that main event.
I think it's going to be a whole lot of fun myself here. It's been a fun year for you, man, in UFC. So the final event's always good. Then we pick it up in January. But what do you got for the folks over at your page at WagerTalk.com for this one?
Yeah, so we are closing out the 2024 UFC betting season this Saturday. I always say there's no off season. Well, this 3 weeks coming up is basically going to be the off season. We've profited over 81 units for clients this year, and we do have a 5% this weekend. We're 14-1 on those this year, having just a fantastic year overall. Number 1 ROI at WagerTalk in all sports. And I have 3 plays up right now. Got some plus money in there as well. And we're going to do it all over again in 2025. So grab the pack this weekend, and we'll see you in 2025.
And Kyle, what is the outlook here for UFC? A lot of people bitching and moaning with some of the quality of fights and the matchups, and they're getting old and they're getting stale and they're running out of dudes. I mean, what after 2024, what is 2025? What's in store for us in the UFC, do you think?
I mean, there are some absolutely fantastic matchups going into January. UFC 311 is just already stacked. They're already stacking the deck on that. And the one thing that I always say on a lot of these shows is I know that people, they love the pay-per-views. They love to bet the pay-per-views. It's going to be it's going to be the higher profile fights. It's going to be all those things. But, obviously we're profiting on these lower level cards. For me, it's not always about entertainment here. It's really about finding angles, putting our money in strong positions. And that's what we've consistently done. Even when it's in the small arena in the Apex, we found opportunity to profit. So in 2025, there are some great matchups, but I'm sure we're going to find those angles to make some money.
A lot of young guys on the up and coming here in UFC. I think they'll be just fine. I wouldn't bet against Dana White. I certainly would not bet against Kyle making it another profitable 2025 in UFC. Kyle, get out of here. Enjoy your mini vacation here. Not before you cash a few more damn tickets, though, this weekend in Tampa for the final UFC match. All right, coming up, guys, we got a ton of props we're going to get to. I do want to remind you as well, college football is here. And the college football playoff, the very first college football playoff is here, which means we got a lot of great college football handicappers at WagerTalk.com. And right now, whether it be the playoffs or bowl games, which is where a lot of guys do a lot of damage this time of year because the numbers are just way off here. You can get every bowl release from your favorite handicapper right now for just $149 over at WagerTalk.com. Take advantage of that, guys. Those of you that have been cashing tickets this year in college football, there is no reason to stop now. Head over to WagerTalk. Take advantage of $149, and that is an all-access bowl package. Every bowl game, including the playoffs right through the national championship for $149. Take advantage of that. Also, as long as you're there fiddling around with the buttons and your mouse, make sure you hit the like button. That would be really fantastic. I know Andy Lang would love you to hit the like button. He's good like that, as he's repping Indiana there, I believe, is what the shirt is. Very nice there, Andy. And you as always here on Wager Talk today. You are bringing the heat, my man. I'm counted 1, 2. We got 4 props across 4 different sports here tonight that you want to get out in the open. So let's start with Thursday Night Football, a battle of the NFC West between the 49ers and the Rams. I see a lot of people looking at the Rams side of things, but not you. You like a 49er prop. Tell me about it. Oh, is this the point where I guess? Am I supposed to lip sync?
Sorry.
Oh, okay, not a problem. Okay, just wanted to make sure. Oh, no.
I love your thoughts on this. Brock Purdy over 20.5 completions. He's gone over in 3 out of the last 4 weeks. The Rams have given up 20 or more completions to 5 out of the last 6 teams. Philadelphia, the only team that didn't go over, and they passed the ball the least amount in the league. But here's the thing, Joe. They are so thin at running back. I read Guarendo's going to try and play tonight after a foot sprain. Like, who's left at running back for San Francisco? To me, this screams Brock Purdy's just going to have to drop back and throw the ball quite a bit. Now you got Deebo Samuel complaining about not getting enough touches. That's always great when your star receiver's bitching and moaning about not getting up. It just feels like this is going to be a pass-heavy game. Purdy's been throwing the ball quite a bit. So I like over 20.5 completions. I just don't see this as a good running game for them.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I looked at the weather, Andy. A little bit of rain there. It's going to be cold up in Santa Clara, but there, nothing crazy that would lead me to believe this is just going to be handoff left, handoff right. And I'm with you. I think the 49ers, I think they win this game here tonight. And I think a big reason of that is because Brock Purdy is going to light up that secondary like he does against other susceptible secondaries. And the Rams, like you said, not exactly. That young backfield there is not exactly going to impress. So I'm with you on that one at 20.5 completions. We just talked to Kyle, and Kyle had a couple of plays in the final UFC card here in Tampa. Andy, you have a prop, but also an interesting story with one of these fighters. So tell us about it.
Yeah, it's a hilarious time of the year. This is the end of the year in UFC is where Dana White clears out the roster. He made 3 guys retire just off of the last card, 3 old guys that were done. So that's what's going on here. And, Ottman Azaitar may be next on the list if he gets knocked out again. So, all right. So Joe, here's a story about Azaitar. It's one of my favorite in all of UFC. So back in 2021, he's supposed to fight Matt Frivola in Abu Dhabi. He tries to sneak a duffel bag into the UFC hotel. They catch him and they're like, "What's in the bag?" And he won't open it. So they make him leave. Joe, he climbs the balconies and the wall of the outside hotel to try and get to his room to sneak in the duffel bag. He gets caught. He won't open the duffel bag. When they ask him what was in it, Joe, you know what his response was? Potatoes. I'm trying to sneak potatoes into the hotel. It's certainly not steroids. No. It is potatoes. Okay, so now UFC's keeping an eye on him. They book him about a year later. He gets knocked out in the first round. They book him again after that. He gets knocked out in the first round. It's amazing how your chin and durability goes away without your potatoes. So now he's fighting Michael Johnson, and this guy's just an under. So we're going to take this fight to not start round 3. Azaitar is kill or be killed. He has 15 fights. 2 of them have gone to round 3. He just goes in there and just swings away. Michael Johnson is a veteran. Azaitar leaves his chin wide open. The real story is the reason Azaitar is in UFC is because Dana White loves that money coming from the area that Azaitar is from. And Azaitar has a brother that was in UFC, and they're both awful. Just take this not to start round 3. It's minus 140. Azaitar is he's an under machine for sure.
Andy, I didn't put 2 and 2 together that was the guy, but I remember that, and I remember you talking about it and laughing and going, wait a minute, he said there was what in the bag? Yeah, potatoes. Yeah, I was going to say I think there might be something suspect about that. Andy, I want to go back here before we hit the NBA prop that you've got as well as the NHL prop. There are some guys in the chat room here. It looks like Russell was one of them that I saw in the chat. Shout out Russ here. What about attempts for Purdy instead of completions? I think 30.5 was the number in that one there. I think that's what we're looking at. Andrew says Purdy attempts over 30.5. So do you have a problem looking at that as well as the over 20.5 completions?
I do. I prefer the completions over the attempts. Why? His last 3 games, only 25, 18, and 28 attempts. But he's completing a ton. Look at his percentage. 80% completion, 61.1, 75%, 69%, 69%. So he doesn't have a big volume of passes, but he's very, very accurate. So I would expect some shorter passes. And again, this isn't the guy like Jameis Winston that's going to throw the ball a million times. Purdy's just going to be focusing more on accuracy. So that's why I prefer the completions, not the attempts.
Yeah, and like you said, it'll be very interesting to see how him and Debo get on the same page. Juwan Jennings, I wouldn't be if I'm going that route, Andy. I'm looking at Debo and Juwan Jennings props as well here tonight, as I do think the 49ers have one more championship push here to try and get to the playoffs and a favorable schedule outside of that game coming up against Detroit. All right, Andy, we've got just 3 games in the NBA here tonight, coming off the quarterfinal games last night. Congratulations. Houston advancing. Atlanta handles the Knicks. They're on their way to face the Milwaukee Bucks in the NBA Cup. But what we got here tonight is interesting. We've got a Miami team at home taking on the Toronto Raptors, and that is where we'll find your prop here. What are you looking at?
I was playing this play when Scotty Barnes was out to start the season. I'm going right back to it. This is RJ Barrett over 1.5 made 3-pointers. Real bummer. I was betting on Scotty Barnes. We were cashing on him over his 3-pointers, and it's really bummer that sprained ankle. They say he's going to be out a couple weeks. That looked awful. I think he's going to be out more. So we got to take some of these guys that's got to fill the spot. RJ Barrett went over this total in the first 5 games of the season without Barnes. He's gone over in 6 of the last 7 games. The last 4 games, he's averaging over 6 3-point attempts per game, and that's with Scotty Barnes. And Joe, your Miami Heat team, they give up 3.4 made threes to his position. There's a lot of points to be filled with the absence of Barnes. I watched RJ Barrett do it to start the season. I think he's going to have to shoot some more shots to keep up with Miami tonight. So give me the over 1.5 made threes for Barrett.
Looking to get over. That seems like a light number because he certainly looks like he's going to have those attempts there. And who the hell knows if Jimmy Butler's still going to be on the team, because all I hear down here and seconds I'm getting an alert and there's something being posted about Jimmy Butler to the Suns, Jimmy Butler to Golden State. Like settle down here, people. Jimmy Butler will likely be at the arena tonight for this game. And we got a huge slate in the NHL, Andy, and you have got yourself in a game here involving the Anaheim Ducks. So tell us what you're looking at.
Nobody's heard of this guy, and yet he's the biggest cash cow in the entire props market right now. Olen Zellweger of the Anaheim Ducks. The books keep putting him at 1.5 shots on goal. It's minus 190, and I don't care. Joey's hit this in 16 out of the last 17 games. That's when minus 190 is value. He's had 3 or 4 shots on goal in the last 5 games, and the books are still giving us 1.5. Toronto gives up the 21st most shots on goal. As long as Zellweger is at 1.5 shots on goal, this is just a set it and forget it. The defenseman is getting plenty of shots, and his shots on goal are actually going up, not down, and the books are still giving 1.5. So Olen Zellweger, I've talked about him before. He's been one of my best friends over the last couple of weeks on these props.
How long have you, Andy, do you find that the market sometimes, especially in the NHL with these props, because I feel like we had this conversation last year too, where the market, it doesn't adjust as quickly in the NHL as it does in some other sports with these. Is that what you have found as well?
Yeah, especially on the guys that are just off the radar. I mean, seriously, who's hammering Zellweger? Like the general public? No way. It's guys like me. So the books, this is not a concern of theirs. They are not moving it. Now, you have someone like Connor McDavid who starts flying over a certain prop. Yeah, they're going to adjust it real quick. But yeah, a defenseman on the Ducks, no.
Yeah, I'm looking here in the chat room here, and the NHL definitely appears to be a place where you get those hidden gems on a night in, night out, guys, which, of course, would behoove you if that's, would that be a Prez word? No, probably not. But it would obviously be to your advantage to hit that subscribe button, hit the like button. Make sure you check out Puck Time each and every Monday through Friday at 11 a.m. Eastern time there with, of course, Carmine and Andrew, and Andy appears on there. You'll have all the prop knowledge and plays that you need. And Andy, I mean, right now, as we finish up the end of the year, this $99 10-day all-access package feels like a pretty good bargain. Something tells me you'll have a few plays between now and the next 10 days to take advantage of. What do you got locked and loaded for the folks now over at your page?
Well, we have our 5% cross-sport parlay that is up.
Ooh.
And I know cross-sport parlays are a little bit different, but Joe, we're 51 and 32 on these over the last 365 days. Every year that I've been at WagerTalk, we have turned a profit on parlays. And I know that the general consensus or oh no, parlays are for losers. No, they're not. Not when we do them. This is one of our bread and butter plays. So the percentage is there, the profits are there, and when we put up a 5% play, you absolutely have to jump on board. We're also red hot in NHL, 6-1 in our last 7 NHL plays. And Joe, I am 102 and 64 the last 2 seasons in NHL. When I get going on these streaks, the profits just roll in. We got a 3% play that is up right now, 5% play that is up for the cross-sport parlay, and a 3% UFC play that is up. So absolutely take advantage of that $99. We don't run these specials too often, so take advantage of that, wt.buzz/AL. And we are top 5 in units gained this year. We did it last year, and we were number 1 last 2 years in units gained. So short-term and long-term looking real good for myself and for clients.
Important question coming out of the chat room, Andy. They'd like to know, when does the dart season pick up again?
It starts the 15th. So Sunday you'll have a few games, and then Monday, look out. It is nonstop. It goes for weeks. This is the World Championship. It's the biggest tournament of the year. It's the one we bring in the most profit on. But I think there's only 3 matches on Sunday, but we'll probably have a play in there. And then Monday, yeah, rock and roll time. And those will be included with the 10 days. So if you guys are interested in the darts, that is included.
Those of you guys that are just joining us, we are not kidding. The man cashes more dart tournament plays than anybody that you will ever meet anywhere. He is ready to go. The man, Andy Lang. If it is a sport that has a line, Andy, without a doubt, figures out an edge and an angle to make it profitable. Andy, always a pleasure, brother. Get out of here. 10 days of action, just $99 right now at Andy's page or any of your favorite handicappers pages over at WagerTalk.com. I do want to recognize a few of you guys in the chat room, including Rochester Johnny, who was impressed with my use of behoove. Yes, not something you would get with the Prez here. And by the way, Dan, it only took, I would say, 28 and a half minutes before somebody popped in a Trey, I think, is like, wait, I just showed up. Where the hell is the Prez? Well, the Prez is putting together a pay-per-view where he's apparently going to be wrestling a black bear later tonight in the mountains somewhere. I'm not sure where he is. I know my money will absolutely pay to see that. Nothing like watching the Prez in a snowy field, a cabin somewhere, wrestling a black bear. I think that should be fun. I was more than happy to fill in for him here today. Depending on how that goes for him, by the way, I may have to be back tomorrow, as we're not sure whether or not the Prez is going to have any sort of reception. I do want to thank you guys for hanging with us, though. Big Daddy Russell Tech in the house here. Also, Mark A. Lay it with the black bear, Mark is saying. What would that line be, chat room? I'm just curious. What would the line be, black bear or Prez? Are we talking Prez plus 200? Or are we talking Prez just LOL as a, plus LOL? Because I think that would be about that. Do thank Andy Lang, of course, for stopping by. You can see Andy here all throughout the week on Wager Talk Today. But don't forget also, guys, hit that like button and subscribe button, and make sure you check out shows like The Morning Wager, Puck Time, All of those are available on the YouTube channel here at WagerTalk TV. Always great information from all our handicappers. Always giving out free picks and free plays and knowledge. So take advantage of it. Become part of the WagerTalk TV family. Hit that follow button on Instagram or TikTok and hit that subscribe button on YouTube. You guys are the best. Bill Sandoval is going Black Bear minus 1,000 or so. And definitely use it in a parlay. Love you, Bill. Outstanding stuff as always. Roger Long, Black Bear minus 2,000. Barry Bader is going minus 500 for the Black Bear. You definitely overestimate the Prez's ability with a Wager Talk thong on in the snow battling a Black Bear, though. Well done, guys. Outstanding as always. We appreciate it. Thank you to Adam Trigger also for stopping by, dropping a couple of college basketball plays. We'll be back again tomorrow, guys. Maybe it's the Prez. Probably not. Black Bear. 10,000 all the way. Guys, good luck with all the plays. We'll see you again tomorrow here on Wager Talk Today. Good luck.